know me, I kinda sorta maybe like video games. To me, it's really the best way to implement a great balance between storytelling while also giving you the ability to feel like you're in the world playing as the characters. But of course, not many people want to play a game for the story. For many people, they want to distract themselves or have fun. And while many type of games fall under this category like FPS games, for this video, the main focus is fighting games. Fighting games is a genre that a lot of people love. It's something that's pretty complex, it's a thing that you can pick up and play, but also has a variety of moving characters that the player can choose and learn how to play and who they like to play as. I find it very interesting and I respect it more than I actually like it. It's not to say that I don't like fighting games, but it's not my favorite genre of games. But recently, the topic of platform fighters have been sparking up again, whether it's talking about Smash Bros. Ultimate and the ending of the DLC, or we're talking about newer platform fighters like Nickelodeon All-Star Brawler and Multiversus. We're specifically saying that the prior two games are just a knockoff of Smash Bros. Now here's the thing about Smash, it basically pioneered the genre of platform fighters, and to an extent I say that it set the standard so high for the genre that any other game that's a platform fighter will automatically be seen as a clone, no matter how different it is. It's happened before, and unfortunately that still seems to be the case. But one of these Smash Bros. Clones basically stands out to me. It was basically my Smash Bros. Before I played Smash Bros. In the first place. And that game is none other than Super Smash Bros. 2, baby! Banger visuals, banger gameplay, banger everything. 10 out of 10, must play for sure. Oh yeah, and PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale was pretty good too. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which I'll just be referring to as PlayStation All-Stars because saying PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale for the entirety of the video is just tiring for me to say, as it could be tiring for you to hear every time I say the game's name. A platform fighting game that came out in 2012 and my first real introduction to not only fighting games but PlayStation in general, since my only exposure to video games back at the time was Nintendo games. I was curious about it since the characters looked unique and cool and the stages were really interesting. So when I picked up that PS3 controller for the first time, I was in awe. I loved every moment I played of it. It might sound silly and it might even be a bit exaggerated here, but I was a kid back then and I just still thought it was pretty cool. It was literally the game that made me want to buy a PS3. Needless to say that even after the support of the game died down, I kept playing it, whether it was either by myself or with a group of friends, which led to some really chaotic but fun tournaments. So yeah, I have a pretty big connection to this game, which does make me sad to see that rarely anybody talks about this game, or when they do bring it up, it's mainly on a negative light, which to be fair is somewhat understandable. Like yeah, this game has its flaws, and I mean a lot of flaws, but even then I still find it to be a fun and really creative game, which definitely deserves better than to be called that quote-unquote that one PlayStation Smash Bros. Ripoff. And so that's what I plan to talk about today. This may or may not change your opinion on this game, but I hope that I can show you that outside of its pretty bad flaws is a game with a lot of potential. So enough rambling, let's start with the In the very early stages of development, Sony first reached out to Naughty Dog, the team behind classics like Uncharted and Crash Bandicoot. But because they were working on The Last of Us at the time, they declined the offer. So if you can't find somebody to publish your game, why not make your own publisher? And so in 2009, they created a specific publisher for the game, which you now know as Superbot Entertainment, which many lead developers like Omar Kendall, who has previous experience making fighting games, joining the team, and they started development of the game, giving it the codename Title Fight. With early prototypes and trailers popping around social media, and looking at it now, there's a lot of changes, especially towards stages which have a lot of focus on platforming, but it still contained the ideas that would have been expanded upon more in the main game. It also showed us 4 specific characters: Kratos from God of War, Parappa the Rapper from Parappa the Rapper, Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal, and Fat Princess? Yeah, I'll talk about that later. Development of the game went pretty well for the most part. Again, for the most part. Around early stages of the game, there was an account on Twitter that supposedly played an early alpha and leaked out a bunch of shit, including screenshots of Sweet Tooth and leaking out most of the characters in the roster. There was even a debug beta version of the original PlayStation All-Stars leaking out. There's a YouTube series made by somebody called Kuriatsu, I am very sorry I pronounced that wrong, where it shows you all of that. A link to their channel will be in the description down below, showing you all that cool stuff so you may see it yourself. There's even a video made by somebody called Beta64 showing you the differences between this and the final game. A link to his video will also be included in the description. And so in April 2012, Title Fight was officially changed to PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which was revealed via a Sony survey that asked players what they thought of the name of the game and the game itself, which was uncovered and published by PlayStation Lifestyle. And in April 26th, the game was officially announced, with a Vita version set to possibly become a thing in the future, which it actually did end up becoming a thing, including crossplay too, which is actually pretty fucking impressive. And so in November 2012, the game finally released after a month's delay, and it actually ended up up doing better than expected, getting enough cash to even get a sequel. But reviewers weren't necessarily the biggest fan of the game, as they just considered it to be disappointing or just okay. Didn't help with the fact that in January 2013, Sony dropped Superbot with many employees feeling betrayed. But of course, that didn't mean that they just shut down the game, as they did make DLC for it until ending support of the game a year later, and in 2018 shutting down their online servers. So yeah, a pretty sad way to end their legacies, especially since it was just their first game. So yeah, rip Superbot. So with the history out of the way, let's talk about the game itself and the main focus of any fighting game, the roster. But first...
Oh, wait, what's this? Knowing how to play will greatly improve the experience.
Oh! Like with... anything.
Would you like to go to the tutorial? Well, I've played this many times before actually, so I don't need to, thank you.
Well, Caddy, are you sure you don't want to play the tutorial? It's pretty quick.
No thank you. I'm totally fine, thanks. Wait, what's this? Knowing how to play will greatly improve the experience.
Wait.
Run that back.
Well, Caddy, are you sure you don't want to play the tutorial? It's pretty quick.
Well, Caddy, are you sure you don't want to play the tutorial?
No thank you. I'm totally fine, thanks.
Kadikarus, I love your content, man, but...
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
The roster of any fighting game is probably the most important thing, since it's everything that gives it an identity, and the roster of PlayStation All-Stars is average, but unfortunately pretty lackluster. I already explained in the development segment that Superbot had a bit of a problem when requesting for other characters to be picked out, since most of the more iconic Sony characters were either rejected or asked for too much money in return, so they had to work with what they had, and yeah, it isn't that great. Of course, we have prior characters in the alpha, including Kratos, Parappa, and Sweet Tooth. We also have some characters that we kind of expected to see, like Sly Cooper, Nathan Drake, Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, and Cole from Infamous, but we also have some pretty left field picks like Evil Cole, who's just a clone of normal Cole with his different super moves and slightly different attacks. Fat Princess, who I can guess that almost 80% of you don't know who that is. And for as much as I like playing as him, Big Daddy from Bioshock feels pretty forced in when you consider that Bioshock was originally an Xbox exclusive at the time. Plus, I can bet that they only added him because Bioshock Infinite was coming out at the time and they wanted to market that. Speaking of that, something that I've seen a lot of people talk about a lot of this game is that many characters and stages were picked not because they wanted it to, but because Sony made them to promote their upcoming games. Which, considering that they picked out the Devil May Cry reboot version of Dante, right in for Metal Gear Rising Revengeance was coming out soon, and a Bioshock Infinite level instead of a Rapture level to accompany Big Daddy is something that is completely understandable. But even then, saying that they're nothing but marketing tactics is really underplaying the hard work they put into the character's moveset, which I'll talk about in a bit, and the amount of creativity put into the stages. Speaking of which, the stages are pretty freaking sweet too. At first they look pretty normal, and they are relatively simple. Some are flat and some have platforms, but when you least expect it, BAM! The stage gets invaded by another game franchise. This is such a creative idea, as it really delves into the crossover idea instead of just having a stage from a specific franchise in there with different characters fighting there. Plus, it's just really fucking cool to see how they integrate that into the stage. Killzone attacking Parappa Town, Ape Escape invading Killzone, and Twisted Metal Robot in the skies of Columbia, and plenty others that are just really cool to see. While on the topic of this, plus I really did not have a way to separate this segment, the visuals of this game still look pretty well and look really nice. Backgrounds could look a bit better and a little bit more colorful, but with shit like stage assets and the characters, everything just looks pretty nice. Well, now that I've addressed our basis, how's the gameplay? Well, I gotta admit, it's a lot more complicated than I remember it being. You see, the game's combat utilizes all 4 buttons to do something: X's for jumping, no shit, squares for light attacks, triangles for heavy attack, and circles for special attack, giving the game a more in-depth level of complexity, which honestly, I really like, especially with the fact that each moveset and attack correlates with a specific move or item used by the character's game, like with Ratchet and Clank using their iconic tool, or Big Daddy utilizing his drill for heavier attacks, while using the plasmids for a very special attack, which is just really cool. You can also see that if you use the right trigger to grab your opponents, and they all have their own unique animations to accommodate their attack. My personal favorite has always been Sackboys because of how both cool and fucking funny they are, but for the most part everything stays relatively the same. And when it comes to the gameplay, they attack, shield, grab items, and all that nice and jazzy shit. But what really makes this game distinct is the level bar. See, the level bar, or super meter, is the main way that you can kill your opponents and win, and like with the attacks, the level of detail with these supers are pretty freaking cool. Level 1s are your bare bone killing moves, either having middle of the road range kills or ones that are so useless that you're better off waiting for a level 2. Yeah, I'm definitely looking at you, Sir Daniel and Nathan Drake. Level 2s are a bit more powerful, having the attack be larger and even some taking half the stage, but they last relatively less. And finally, we have level 3s, which take the most to get, but fucking hell are they worth it. They last 10 to 12 seconds, and they definitely pack a punch, but fucking hell, some of them are either overpowered as fuck like with Kratos and Evil Cole, barely do shit like with Fat Princess and Nathan Drake, or boring as fuck with it only lasting one cutscene and everyone dies like with Spike and Toro, which is a shame too because some of them are overpowered ones look cool as shit. Interestingly, the super meters was actually something that they wish they would remove given more time to develop, and I honestly can't imagine the game being the same without it. However, there is one problem I have with the gameplay, and it really is my biggest problem with the game. And that's how fucking unbalanced the characters are. Hey, here's this 3-step guide on how you can win every match in PlayStation All-Stars. Step 1, pick Kratos. Step 2, there is no step 2 or 3. At that point, you already won the match, and you still get no bitches. Honestly, I'm really impressed that even with all the DLC and patches, that they never really balanced out the characters. All of them feel really weak or just broken combo magnets. There's no in between. And with that, you can kind of tell who are the most played characters in the game, while the rest are just rarely played because what's the use of playing against the character that will make me automatically win? Overall, while I really do enjoy the gameplay of this game, the balancing just kind of drags out the fun factor for me. I can't really think of a creative way I could segue into this, so this game has some game modes which are pretty interesting, so let's go over them pretty quickly. Solo play is for us lonely motherfuckers with no friends that like to play fighting games alone. We have the story mode where you pick a character and then they go on this epic quest to defeat an evil entity. The gameplay doesn't really change around except in the end where you fight your rival where two placing characters fight and interact with each other, which is actually a pretty cool fucking idea. And then you fight the Polygon Man, who, fun fact, used to be your original PlayStation mascot before getting cut. And you know what? That's an actual really good fucking idea for a boss fight. So how did they fuck it up? No, because like this is one of the worst fucking boss battles I've ever fought in a video game. Hell, it's really fucking stupid at calling it a boss because you don't really fight him. You just sort of fight randomly generated enemies who are shaded in purple until he drops his head and you gotta barrage him with attacks. Rinse and repeat until it fucking dies and you finish the story mode.
How could this happen? None have beaten me until now.
Tournament mode was made specifically for online play, which I can't really test out because the server's been down for almost 5 years now. Versus match is your typical multiplayer smash up where you can beat up an NPC or play with other people, and that's where I spend most of my time playing the game, both for this video and back when I used to play it. Customization mode is where you can change the banner and the icon of your character, that was mainly used for multiplayer shit, and even look at character models, taunts, costumes, intro animations, ending animations, and even change the winning theme. And then there's the store where you can buy icons, banners, but most notably, the DLC. On November 15, 2012, they announced that the first downloadable content would arrive in the form of 2 new playable characters, Kat from Gravity Rush and Emma Graves from Starhawk, alongside with a new stage, Fearless, based on Heavenly Sword and Wiped Out. Kat was originally my main outside of Ratchet and Sir Daniel, so you know I really enjoyed playing as her, and Emma Graves was a pretty cool character too. Fearless was a fine enough stage, although it might have my least favorite invasion segment. So after they dropped Super Bob, the rest of the DLC was made by Santa Monica Studios, and so in February 2013, they announced that Isaac Clarke from Dead Space and Zeus from God of War would become playable characters with a stage called Graveyard, which was based on Medieval and Unfinished Swan. Isaac is definitely my favorite of all the DLC characters because how fucking cool his moveset was, and Zeus manages to become even more broken than Kratos, so take that as you will. Graveyard was a fine enough stage, but when the invasion started, it quickly became my favorite stage in the game, just by the visuals alone. More DLC was planned to release, including characters like Ape from Oddworld and Dart from Legend of Dragoon, including a Gravity Rush stage. Dude, that would have been so fucking cool. There were even screenshots of it, and it looks so fucking amazing. Why did they drop it? I actually know why, because low stages of the prior DLC characters. And so, it was cancelled, and such support of the game was finished. And that was PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and even after all these years, I still love it. Objectively speaking, this game has a bunch of issues. The balancing is a mess, single-player content is pretty lackluster, and if I were to be honest with myself, I'd give this game a 6 out of 10 at best. But I genuinely can't bring myself to hate this game. This video may come off as biased, and let's be honest, it is, but I can't understate the amount of love I have for this game. I highly doubt we will ever get a sequel to this game, and I would adore to make a follow-up video saying the words, I was wrong and it did get a sequel, but we gotta face the facts here. But if we ever do get a sequel, I want them to take this game as a blueprint and expand it into become the best game I know it could be. But for now, we are left with one mess of a platform fighter that I really can't help but love. Anyways, this has been Manuel D, and remember, if they ever make a sequel to this game, now people can't complain about Crash and Spyro not being in it. Am I a few months late to tell this joke? Yeah. Did I still say it to piss some of you off? Absolutely. People should know me at this point.
We could leave the lights on, sun.